Straight Different with Dr. Wolf, the change agent.
Good evening, everybody. Monday, March 3rd, coming toward the end of the winter. I'm watching some birds flying out by the edge of the ocean here, Santa Monica, California. We had some wet weather. Many people have been experiencing the climatic change in such extreme ways. We're fortunate here because so far the extremity of the weather has been in our favor. You know, we get pretty hot days sometimes in the summer, but nothing like the kind of stuff that people get in Arizona, for instance. So, let's see. We have a couple of topics to talk about tonight. I'd like to fill you in on the program that's going on over the school. You know, I teach the Taming Your Anger with Emotional Intelligence program to an entire continuation high school in South Central Los Angeles. That means these kids, for some reason or another, are not welcome into the regular public school system. And the idea is to teach emotional intelligence as curriculum. This isn't just an anger management program they're learning. This is teaching emotional intelligence as curriculum because from what I see, psychological services are not really being provided, at least in the Los Angeles school system. The ratio of students to a psychologist in Los Angeles is well over 1,000 to 1. What that means is the only people that get to see, the only kids that get to see a psychologist are the squeakiest wheels. And that means pretty much suicidality. So if you're thinking about killing yourself and you tell somebody, then you might get to see a psychologist. The idea of teaching emotional intelligence as curriculum is the old model of psychology isn't working anymore. Typically and historically, people think of psychology when they think of solving a problem. That's when you want to go to a psychologist. You wait. That's like waiting to brush your teeth until you get a whole bunch of cavities without ever learning anything about dental health. So by teaching emotional intelligence, I want to prepare these kids with some basic information that they can use in order to better understand their emotions. We don't teach emotional intelligence. People kind of recognize what's referred to as the meme. They say emotional intelligence. They say, oh yeah, that makes sense, sure. But they don't really know what it is. The word was really launched into our culture in 1996 by Daniel Goleman, who is regularly putting out blogs and information and so on. And he wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence. And I differ with some of his definition of emotional intelligence. He's much more interested in emotional intelligence from the point of view of how it allows people to get other people to do what they would ask them to do. And where I differ is I believe that there's a lot more involvement with understanding of emotions, that the understanding of emotions can really make you emotionally smarter. Your IQ is pretty fixed from birth, they say. You're going to stay that as capable of learning as an infant as you are as an adult. It's pretty fixed. But emotional intelligence can be developed. You can become emotionally smarter. So the building blocks of emotional intelligence, you can go to my website, tamingyouраnger.com. I highly recommend the building blocks of emotional intelligence. You can get a digital copy, I believe, for less than $10. You can get a hard copy, which I actually prefer, for about $20. And so we're teaching these kids the building blocks of emotional intelligence so that they can begin to understand, first of all, what's going on inside of them without making it a problem. So this week, I talked to them about the stages of the Taming Your Anger program, because they now understand the 4 basic tools. You can get all of this off the website. For $5, you can get an e-copy of the Taming Your Anger workbook. So they know the 4 basic tools. There's a particular breathing exercise called EQ for emotional intelligence. EQ breathing. There's stop, breathe, leave, which is the command you learn to give to yourself. There's identifying your early warning signals, and then there's discharge and release. So I tell them, like there are stages to reading. The first stage to reading is you recognize the letter of the alphabet, A, B, C. Your brain starts to see the letter A, and you can identify it. The next step is you put sounds together. So now you remember, you can put C-A together, ka, or B-A, ba, and you're looking at the 2 letters, and you're making sounds, and your brain is engaged in putting that together. And then you have words. That's the next stage. So now, if you saw the word book in front of you, your brain would not be sounding out the B and 2 O's is ooh. Your brain isn't doing that. Your brain sees the word book, or bookends, or bookstore. Your brain is functioning at a different level. There are stages of development. And that's the way I introduced it. Plus, there are stages of our human development. You got fetus, infant, toddler, child, adolescent, adult. Each one, and you have advanced stages of adult development, which is hardly talked about. That's what I did my dissertation on. There are stages of adult development. So there are stages of the Taming Your Anger program. The first stage is you learn the 4 tools. The second stage is you actually begin to use it once or twice and find out that it works for you. And so I start each class asking, did anybody here use the method over the weekend? Yeah. People do. 10%, 15%. And so these students, these kids, these teenagers are beginning to use the method in their life. And then I ask, is there anybody in the class who had an anger incident who didn't use the method? Would you like to talk about it so you can do it better next time? And they're starting to talk about it. Terrible situations. I can't tell you. One young man says, yeah, I lost my temper because my brother got stabbed. And I jumped in my car to go and get the guy that did it, and I wrecked my car. He talked about the stabbing like it was no big deal. The car was the problem. On the one hand, it's tragic. On the other hand, it's like, wow, look what's accepted somehow in a funny kind of way. So I'm beginning to introduce it into the regular conversation in the classroom, you see, about emotions and about how anger works as a shield from primary emotions and an attack at the same time. But that you have a choice now, you see, in terms of stages of development. Once you've done it for yourself once or twice, you can say, I want to develop a new habit. I want to have a new habit. Because you see, we have, and I tell them, these kids, you already have a habit for how to deal with anger. You can't help being angry. It's not up to you. That's your emotional brain producing emotions. It's not up to you. So you figured out how to deal with your anger before you were 5 years old. So right now, the way you express your anger is based on the habit you developed before you were 5 years old. So here you are, I say to these teenagers who are 16, 18, 20. There's plenty of folks out there listening. We've got hundreds of people listening. I welcome you all to check in with me. Tell me topics that you want me to talk about. Ask questions. Interact here. I want to be able to, there's more dynamicism when there's interaction. So you already have a habit, you see. When you feel the emotion of anger, you experience it somewhere in your body. Maybe it's your chest or your solar plexus or your jaw, your fists or wherever. These are your early warning signals. And then you express it in ways that you habitually developed before you were 5 in the loony bin you were raised. Okay, so what I'm telling you is you can develop a new habit. You're not 5 anymore. So if you think that you want your behavior to be dictated to you by a pattern of behavior you figured out when you were 5 years old, well, you continue to do that. That's up to you. Most people don't understand they have a choice. I'm telling you, you have a choice. You can train your brain to develop a new habit. I guarantee it. I give people a money-back guarantee. And the president of the National Anger Management Association laughed when I told him that. He laughed, and I said, why are you laughing? He said, because nobody else does that. I'll give you more than half your money back if you do our program. It's a personalized coaching online program to help you develop a new habit in response to the signal of anger, just in case you don't want to be manipulated by the unconscious habit you learned before you were 5. So I tell that to these kids. And then I told the kids that hadn't experienced it yet, I said, look, it's up to you. It's up to you. I could give you a book and tell you plenty of things about how to ride a bike, I said. And you can understand everything about riding a bike. But until you've gotten on a bike and wobbled a little bit and maybe fallen once or twice, and then you learn how to ride it, now you're at a different stage. You can think about riding a bike as long as you want. But until you get on it, you don't have that experience. It's a different stage. And this is what I tell the kids. So yeah, I gave you the basic tools. I've talked about it with you. Some of you have basically hopped on the bike. You're now practicing. Good. The others have not, and it's up to you. I'm going to keep talking and giving you information. I'll teach you about the bike, so to speak. But it's up to you. You have to begin to apply the method. Now, you folks out there probably haven't even found out what the method is yet. It's really simple. So, it's hard to get to practice before you know what the method is. And I talked with them one more thing today about how anger is really a secondary emotion. It's a secondary emotion. We talk about the primary emotions, you see, are sad, happy, sad, and anxious. These are the primary emotions, primary feelings. It comes from feeling safe or unsafe. So your emotions can be calm or not calm. Like right now, you're listening to the radio, over your internet. You're probably calm. Your emotions are calm. If they're not calm, you could take a very slow, deep breath and then calm them even further. We're calm unless we feel unsafe. If you feel unsafe, your emotions aren't calm anymore. We've been trying to figure out, our instincts tell us when we're safe or unsafe since before we had to leave the cave to figure out if it's safe to go eat or the saber-toothed tiger would get us. That's how long we've been working with this sense of safety or not safety. So if we're safe or unsafe, and then safety seems to have emerged into feeling loved or unloved. When we feel unloved, I think we feel unsafe. But to feel unloved is sad. And so our emotions go out and get sad. We feel sad. We can add a lot of things on that, on the sadness. But we feel sad. That's a primary emotion. We could feel happy, or you could feel scared. The innocence of a child is the primary emotion. The innocence of the beautiful little children who can be 2, 3, 4 years old, and when they're happy or they're sad or they're even anxious, yes, angry, for sure. That's innocence. That's the primary emotion. Anger is a secondary emotion. Think of it as some emotion coming up from the ground and wanting to come out, maybe like in a geyser. And then there's a block, because we learn how to protect ourselves